And we have the second game of the night as we have the Western Conference Finals after the Lakers won a huge Game 3 in Houston despite Russell Westbrook's huge performance. They find themselves down 3-0 in the series while the Lakers are cruising through this series. Big game. Is there any hope that the Rockets can win this series? And if not, can they win at least a few games in this series?
Well, we've never seen a team come back down from 3-0. Um, it'd be a historical feat if they can do it. Obviously, they do have two of the best scorers in the league in James Harden and Russell Westbrook. So I think, the possibility is out there, but the first thing that they have to look at is how are they going to stop LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the other end. And I really don't know if they have the assets around them to do that. You've seen LeBron James just take off this series, really put his name in the MVP conversation with Anthony Davis has been his sidekick the whole time. Their bench has played well between Kuzma, um, Caldwell Pope, even Rondo has played well this series. Caruso was some buck. I mean, a huge game. I mean, they're gonna have to give it time to try and get themselves back in this series. So it starts with tonight.
Well, on the other hand, the Lakers just pure domination, like you said. LeBron James in the MVP race now, the playoffs. Well, Russell Westbrook's he seemed like at least a top three contender in that category, but after games one and two, not really. But now after game three, he's back in it. But we would really like to see James Harden and that bench need to both have a good game at the same time. It can't be one or the other. That's the key to the Rockets' victory. Wow, and good defense by the Rockets, but Avery Bradley all playoffs has just been that X factor to keep the Lakers offense calm and cool, and he hits tough shots just like that. And it's a good start for them out of the gate. And big game in your prediction for this game, who do you have winning?
Well, my head tells me this should be the Lakers sweep, but I think you'll see James Harden, Russ Westbrook put up one of their better games and win a game at least in this series. I do think it will be a shootout, though. I think this will be a close game.
And I think if you're the Rockets, you really have to put your best effort in this game. I know they may have thought they did it in game three, but the bench just didn't perform well, and James Harden had that poor first half, and they all need to show up in this game, especially defensively. If they're going to go down 4-0 in this series, big game, doesn't it seem like this playoffs almost seemed like a waste between those two really huge upsets? After upsetting the Clippers, going losing 4-0 in a 7-game series in the conference finals would be more embarrassing than that series against Golden State even.
Yeah, you would have to think that. I mean, you traded Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook this offseason and some picks. Think, maybe Westbrook and Harden could, um, make it farther than what Chris Paul in the when he was with the Rockets did. And obviously they made the conference finals again, and they're finally, don't have to play Golden State because they didn't make the playoffs with injuries and stuff. But it doesn't seem like they're going to go any further than what they have gotten in the past.
Well, James Harden's going to take another three, can't hit, and he starts off 1 for 2 though. And big game besides, we can say they're two stars and then their great six man of the year and Eric Gordon. Who do you think will show up in this pivotal game four for them?
Well, you've seen Robert Covington play some good defense. It's Harden there with a fadeaway three and a pull-up, very interesting shot there from Harden. Looks like he could just routinely pulled up there, but instead took like a fadeaway looking shot. You like to see Robert Covington play super well. Obviously, a 3-and-D player. Off the bench, you saw Austin Rivers play pretty well in game two. Really, Eric Gordon has to hit shots like we've talked about. Really, they just have to have a really excellent shooting performance from three-point land if they want any success or any shot at winning here in game three, let alone this series.
Well, so far in game four, LeBron James hasn't had to do much, and he's been the dominant force in this series. But right now, it's Anthony Davis in the first quarter, while James Harden's 1 for 4 in this game, and Russell Westbrook not looking too good as well. Oh, and that's going to be his first foul. But that might be to get some subs in here. I think we'll see one sub. Eric Gordon will come into the game. As well as Dwight Howard for the Lakers. But LeBron gets right through Eric Gordon. That size mismatch is just very tough to not allow him in the paint.
And that's something we've seen all series long. LeBron James driving, finishing, easy layup from the rim. He's had his jumper go this series. I mean, you've seen LeBron James just come out and really set the tone for the Lakers, proven he wants to make it to another finals.
And big game if the Rockets are to be swept tonight. Is this the last time we see Mike D'Antoni coach the Rockets?
I think there's a very high probability that is the case. There's been rumors that the Rockets were looking to go their separate ways with D'Antoni for the last couple of years now. Obviously, now he's on the last year of his contract. You could see the Rockets try to bring a different coach and try a different system next year.
And you see that number on your screen. Last almost 3 minutes now. Rockets have not scored, and they're down 7 early in the first quarter. Things not looking good. Very repetitive of what this series has looked like. Eric Gordon, though, silences that run. He's been great off the bench of this series. He's showed up almost every game. Even in that bad game 3, he at least put in a average game. Ooh, and Anthony Davis, rare miss at the line. But he'll hit 1 or 2 to give the Lakers a 5-point lead. Austin Rivers takes a step back mid-range, can't hit. I don't know if that's the right shot for him there. He seemed to have a step on Rondo, and Rondo not really known for his defense, and now Anthony Davis continues his dominance of the first quarter. 7 points, while the Rockets only shooting 3 of 10 from the field and have 8 points. Very disappointing out of the Rockets. Dwight Howard seems to be in the paint for a long time. No 3 seconds, though, and he's going to hit the hook shot. Lead is up to 9.
Dwight Howard has played very well now in this game so far, and that's something that we haven't seen so far in this series. We thought that we would see the big men take advantage of these mismatches, and here in this game, we are now seeing it, especially with Dwight Howard.
Well, Eric Gordon now has over half the Rockets' points as he has 6 points, the only points off the bench for the Rockets as well. If you're the Rockets, you cannot allow another basket for Davis, but they are off the offensive rebound. 9 points of the 19 are from Anthony Davis. Eric Gordon going for another miracle 3. Hits back iron, no good, and the Rockets down to 8 early, 19-11. Lakers lead after 1. And we're back for the Western Conference Game 4. All Lakers and Anthony Davis as he scored 9 points in that first quarter. But it seems like the bench is going to have to come in against Eric Gordon, who's been the hot hand for the Rockets.
Yeah, the starters, didn't really show up here at this game 4 at home, and obviously Anthony Davis and LeBron have torched, and you can throw Dwight Howard in that mix too. It's been all Lakers so far.
And it's just been disappointing this series. The Lakers have beat Houston in their own game, being fast break and fast-paced offense. They've dominated getting out in the fast break, and the Rockets have had little rim protection to do anything. Oh, Eric Gordon, tough fadeaway, and Seems like he's taking some volume shots rather than keeping the hot hand like he had on those two wide open threes. And big game, if the Rockets do end up sweeping here, how much confidence is that going to give them going into the NBA Finals?
Well, they've been on a roll, most of these playoffs. You look at this series so far, they have really dominated the matchup. LeBron James and Anthony Davis on, the other two superstars, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. They've outperformed them, whether it's at home or away. You've seen them last series in the semifinals against the Thunder. Other than one mishap, they put up crooked numbers on the Thunder, held the Thunder to around 30% shooting in 3 of those games, and those all being blowouts. Obviously, in that first series playing the Blazers, who made the Western Conference Finals last year, they had small problems with Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, but the Lakers still proved in that series that they were the real deal. And ever since that series, it just seems like they've dominated. And they're on a string of wins now. Other than that game 3 loss against the Thunder, they've pulled off win after win. And whoever they do end up playing in the finals, it's gonna be tough for either one of those teams to stop this Lakers squad when they're this hot.
And it's been weird, big game. You talk about that Trailblazer series. It actually seemed like they had the most trouble with them. Is that sign just of a tough matchup for the Blazers, and maybe they should have been, if they could have got a higher seed, maybe we could have seen them go a bit further in this playoffs?
Well, with how it's played out, you could easily say that. You saw the lower seeded Rockets beat the Nuggets. You saw the lower seeded Thunder beat the Jazz. Even in the East, you saw the 2 seed Raptors get upset by the 7 seed Brooklyn Nets, who are now in the Eastern Conference Finals. You just seen multiple upsets here so far in these playoffs. So, the Blazers just did get a tough draw, being the 8th seed. I mean, obviously, that puts you in a pretty tough spot, and they did have to play, a championship contender in the Lakers, and the Lakers proving that they are no fluke.
And big game, you see those lopsided rebound numbers. Now 15-6, the Lakers are leading the rebound game. It's going to be extremely hard as Mike D'Antoni calls a timeout here. Overall, this game's just been disastrous so far, and he's got to talk over everything, it seems, in this timeout. All right, we'll see if this Rockets starting unit can finally step up. It's got to be James Harden and Russell Westbrook, but now a turnover by Tucker. And big game, anything on PJ Tucker? We've seen him have a lot of tough matchups in the past years in the playoffs, and he's accepted those roles, but this year might be his toughest with the small ball.
Well, obviously, in previous years, he did play center a little bit, but Capella was there as their rim protector, and now with Tyson Chandler being their only big man, and he gets very limited minutes. Usually on blowouts. You're seeing PJ Tucker's had to match up with Jokic in that first round. Played pretty well, but I'd say he had a lot of help between Covington, Westbrook, and Harden on that. They just played great overall defense, and obviously in that second series, Zubac, not known as a scorer on the offensive end, but still, to hold the first 2 rounds, they held the big men, it kept them pretty quiet. And here in this series, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, I mean, 2 of the top scorers in the league, best players in the league, and they just have had no answer for them.
Yeah, well, PJ Tucker's been pretty absent on the three-point line, which has been surprising because he's usually someone who spreads out the floor compared to maybe his Raptors days or even Phoenix Suns where he was a 3-and-D player. And on Houston right now, it's just been really stuck in that defensive zone, and he hasn't had too good of success in this series, even with the help from Russell Westbrook, Harden, or Covington. And Avery Bradley's going to extend that lead for the Lakers up to 13. And big game, we see this. Russell Westbrook and Harden are constantly having to pass off the ball, but finally they hit it on this as Russell Westbrook will cut it down to 10. What have you seen from the Lakers defense not allowing them to get into the paint?
Well, when you have Davis and McGee and LeBron out there all at the same time, I mean, those are three big bodies that are going to be very hard to stop with the smaller guards in Westbrook and Harden. Obviously, I mean, those guys are just huge in the paint, and they haven't really run into that problem so far. But here, in this series with all these big men, they've had to they forced Russell Westbrook to take a lot more jumpers, and Westbrook, known as a volume shooter, has not shot very well in the series. And James Harden, same way. James Harden hasn't been as aggressive on offense as we'd like to see him.
Well, he answers there with a three, and they've been kind of stuck in this 8 to 12 points area. But big game, this has been all series. You look at that figure right there, 0 for 1 on threes for the Lakers, and now 1 for 2. Rondo hits. They really haven't needed the three ball to beat teams in the playoffs so far, maybe besides the Trailblazers. But it's just been impressive against a team that relies so much on threes in the Rockets.
No, it is pretty crazy to see the Lakers, before that Rondo threw there, score all their buckets at the free throw line or inside the 3-point arc. Very, very crazy. You don't see that very often. And like you said, compared to the Rockets, who take the majority of their shots out at the 3-point line, it speaks volumes to why this is a 12-point lead right now. The Rockets obviously haven't made as many threes as the Lakers have made twos, and it's hurt them.
And you look at this 37 points right now. That's as many points as the Nets and Bucks had in the third quarter of most of their games so far in that series. And the Lakers will head into halftime with a 12-point lead, 37 to 25. We'll see what we had to say at our halftime show. And this game's been all Anthony Davis. He's been dominating at the free throw line, 15 points, 2 rebounds, and another game where the Lakers are dominating the rebounding game and shooting 65%. And there's been about 3 to 4 offensive rebounds already in this game, but a lot of their defensive rebounding has just been dominant as well due to all the Rockets' misses. 38% for the Rockets in this series is actually their second highest total at halftime. Big game. Anything else at half?
Well, it's just you can't win very many games when you allow the opposing squad to shoot 65%. They're out rebounded. It just there's not much you can say. I mean, Davis has 15 here at half. The Lakers with 37 at half, looking to put up another crooked number. They've been the highest scoring team, I'd say, in these playoffs so far, and they're looking to put up another number that's going to be up there.
And we are back for the third quarter and the second half in the Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. Houston riding on their backs as they down 12. And they really need a huge comeback here to stay alive in this series. Otherwise, they'd be facing a sweep. Oh, James Harden step back three. Can't hit, but Robert Covington somehow gets offensive rebound through 3 Lakers, and maybe a bright spot so far for the Rockets. Could be a good start out of the offensive rebounds. And Russell Westbrook has the answer. 9-point game. Big game. How did a team like the Rockets take advantage of offensive rebounds against the Clippers and Nuggets, yet have come into this series and we haven't really seen that at all, as the Lakers have completely dominated the rebound game?
Well, it was pretty shocking to see them be able to out-rebound the Clippers most of those games. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George both known as very good defenders and great rebounders. And obviously, Zubac was the biggest guy out there on the court at most times for that starting squad. But it was great overall team rebounding for the Rockets. And in this series, I mean, there's just so many more big bodies. And I think the Lakers have done a lot better job boxing out and forcing tougher shots.
Harden he fakes out JaVale McGee. He goes the opposite way, but now it's go Westbrook for 3, can't hit. And the Rockets 1 of 4 to start the half, and Anthony Davis 2 of 2 to start the half, and it's back up to 15-point lead for the Lakers. Oh, but Westbrook trying to keep it close. Big game. How long do you think we're going to see the starting lineup out for the Rockets with the score being what it is?
Well, I think you'll see D'Antoni possibly go to what he did in Game 3, where he'll either sit down Harden or Westbrook here later in this third quarter and keep one of his all-stars out there to try and keep this game within reach so he doesn't have his whole bench out there. Then obviously to start the fourth quarter, you'll have the other star come in and try to be the vocal point of the offense. But
And
really, it's not about offense here. It's about defense. The Lakers have 45 points with just under 4 minutes left in the third quarter.
and a surprising stat you might find is LeBron James, I believe, only has 4 points in this game, and Anthony Davis has 19. It's just been all Anthony Davis, and this paint play has been unbelievable at Lakers. And with this free throw, it might be an 18-point lead. If you're Rockets fans right now in this stadium, it's just very quiet right now. As despite this surprising run by a 6 seed that had high expectations and seemed to finally show up in the playoffs, you're facing a possible sweep in the Western Conference Finals in brutal fashion on your home court. And big game, if we're looking at the offseason, if the Rockets do end up losing, will there be any changes with some of their veterans off the bench, as most of them are on 1-year contracts besides Gordon, Harden, and Westbrook?
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what they end up doing. As you said, a lot of these guys on 1-year deals, free agents. I think you could see them, maybe try and trade a couple of guys, possibly Eric Gordon off the bench. There's been rumors they could try and deal Westbrook. But that also depended on how far they made it here in these playoffs and making it to the Western Conference Finals. I think in the first year with this combination is pretty solid. But we saw this with Chris Paul. They just couldn't get over that hump, and eventually they had to move on from Chris Paul. So it'll be very interesting. I think a lot of it will really depend on the coach. If they do keep D'Antoni or if they go with somebody else. I think that'll be the main factor in who they keep. Who they try and sign or what kind of trades they try and make as Davis scores yet again. And Anthony Davis putting on a show here in this closeout game. And Gordon misses the free throw. Rockets leaving points they desperately need at the free throw line. Can't have that happen.
And big game, do you think we'll ever see James Harden not in a Rockets uniform? We know he was traded from the Thunder to Houston. He's become a superstar, and many believe he's already a top 3 shooting guard all time. But how is he going to get over this hump of he needs to get that ring to really be well known as that top 3 or top 5 shooting guard all time? And can he do it in a Rockets uniform, you think?
Well, I think it's very possible he can do it. Obviously, the West is just very, very stacked at the moment. You've seen Daryl Morey be a very aggressive general manager, really pulls off blockbuster deals. But there's something, you look back on, you've seen them trade their star players. You've seen Tracy McGrady be traded. You've seen, obviously, Yao Ming got hurt and couldn't stay healthy and ended up retiring. You've seen a lot of their star players get traded, and I think that's not out of the realm for James Harden. If they have to go into rebuild, the best way to rebuild is, trade your star player. You just saw the Thunder do it. They trade away Paul George for a record-setting amount of draft picks, and they got young players, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. They got Danilo Gallinari, who was great this year. So there's a possibility. It's a real thing. If they can get a good team together build around James Harden, if Westbrook's not that man. But Daryl Morey is kind of a gunslinger. He's willing to wheel and deal. So I don't know if you will see James Harden finish out his career with the Rockets or not.
And this game really gone out of hand for the Rockets as we might see some early exits with a 24-point lead for Lakers as they're making a statement here. And looks like they're going to have a few rest days after the Nets tied up the series in Milwaukee. Big game for this Lakers squad. How do you see them lining up with the Nets? And then what about the Bucks afterwards?
Well, obviously, I think a finals matchup that most predicted was Bucks Lakers. Obviously, the best two teams this year in the regular season and so far in the playoffs, in my opinion. Um, it'll be a doozy of a matchup, to see LeBron James, the superstar for in the league for the last how many years, obviously the best player, and the new upcoming, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who won MVP last year. Obviously, the top two MVP people this year, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think it'll be a great matchup. I think you'd have to give the edge to the Bucks, better regular season record. But with how the Lakers have been playing these playoffs, it's going to be a tough matchup for the Bucks if the Lakers continue to play this well defensively. And if LeBron James and Anthony Davis score like they have this series, even like you said tonight, a down game for LeBron James, but Anthony Davis has picked up his slack and put up monster numbers. If they end up playing Brooklyn, you got the old matchup: Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, former teammates. They won a ring together in Cleveland. Obviously, Kyrie requested a trade to get out of LeBron's shadow, and he didn't have success in Boston. But so far this year, he's had pretty good success with Brooklyn, especially here in these playoffs. Let him on a run, and I think that'd be a very interesting matchup. The bigs in that series would be a hell of a matchup. With how good Brooklyn's bigs have played this series, they have the size to match up with the Lakers. But I think the Lakers would probably overpower them with the star-studded duo of Anthony Davis, LeBron James.
And great point there, big game. Those star matchups possibly in those finals are going to be very interesting, whether we see Giannis versus LeBron James, Anthony Davis, or and JaVale McGee post risers Tucker, and Tucker, all he can do is put his head down as this game has just been very pitiful for the Rockets as they find themselves down 25. It's just been a very disappointing performance out of Westbrook and Harden again. This is the first team that's tamed them in any series so far. The Nuggets they only found a couple of games in game 3 and 4, but after that they still lost all 3 games at home, and then the Clippers, they couldn't do anything against them as they lost 3-1. But all of a sudden this conference finals has led the Rockets to being swept most likely when it's all said and done, down 27 in the fourth quarter.
Well, when you look at the playoffs as a whole, the Rockets ended up only winning one game at home here in these playoffs. Pretty unacceptable uh, for a team and to win only one game at home and advance all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, they played well on the road, but in the playoffs, you're supposed to win on your home court. That's the advantage.
And that might have easily set a playoff record for somehow a team advances to the conference finals only winning one home game, especially as an underdog in the 6th seed. Unbelievable. And big game, we we've seen a couple games in this series where we finally get to see LeBron and Anthony Davis combining for more than 40 points in these 6 minute quarter games, which is what you would like to see out of those two. Are they going to have to do that in the finals almost every game, especially with their bench being weaker than both the Nets and Bucks bench?
Yeah, you're gonna need games like you're seeing tonight out of Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis hasn't really had this kind of game where he outscores LeBron. Usually, especially in this series, it's been all LeBron James so far, with the little help of Anthony Davis. But here in this game, it's been all Anthony Davis and little LeBron James. But I think in the finals, you always see the star step up in the finals. LeBron James has been there and done that before. It'll be Anthony Davis' first finals. But Anthony Davis, a mature player, been in the league now for how many years, and I think he's ready to take this step to the finals. Um, you'll see both the Lakers stars step up and play great in the finals.
And big game, what is LeBron James going to be telling Anthony Davis, who this is his first conference finals, and he's obviously done well there? But what about his words of wisdom for the finals for Anthony Davis?
Well, I wouldn't even say it's just LeBron James. There's a lot of veterans on this Lakers team that's been in the finals. You look at Danny Green; he's been to the finals how many times? He's won a couple of rings. Avery Bradley has had some deep playoff runs. LeBron James obviously went on that stretch of 9 or 8 or 9 finals in a row. Um, Rajon Rondo has been in the finals, won a couple rings. There's more than just LeBron James on this team that has experience. And LeBron James, I think, you look back to his Cleveland days with the younger squad he had there, sending that team to the finals. He kept them composed against a Golden State team that has been there and done that before, and I think he'll have no issue doing that again this year. It's all about keeping your composure, not losing your mind. It's another basketball game. You gotta take it one game at a time. You can't look at it, as a series. It's one game at a time, and LeBron James has come back from a 3-1 deficit before. So even if the Lakers do get down in a series, you can never rule LeBron James out as yet another offensive rebound for the Lakers, and that's seems like it's been like that almost every single possession. Whether it's the first shot they take goes in, or it's the second one they get off an offensive rebound. I mean, the rebounding stats tonight have got to be lopsided. It's got to be very similar to the field goal percentage.
And it's been disappointing how much, sorry to say, but we've seen Tyson Chandler a lot in this game or in this series. And if you're a Rockets fan, it's never a good sign when you actually see a center out on the court. And when he's been out there in garbage time, he's at times putting up better numbers than their bench has in this series. So really disappointing series for the Rockets. And right now, looking at some of the scores from previous series, the Houston Rockets actually have the highest total in a game so far in the playoffs at 75 in game one of the first round against the Nuggets in that huge blowout. And the Lakers right now looking at having the other top scorers unless they hit a three right here, which I'm sure they're just going to be holding the ball out as they've scored 72, a 72 again, and a 70 in the playoffs. They're really getting hot when it counts. And the Los Angeles Lakers are heading to the NBA Finals with a huge win, 72-48. They just embarrassed the Rockets on their home court as well as in LA. And James Harden and Russell Westbrook will not be going to the finals despite their underdog run so far. And big game, we're going to take a look at the losing team in this series first. Really disappointing between these two stars. Not one of the worst games, to be honest, between these two, but their defense probably at their worst tonight, giving up 72 points, and their offensive rebounds allowed just really disappointing in game four.
Well, they got down early, and after that period, it seemed like Harden and Westbrook took a couple. They started off pretty slow, but after that, they shot the ball well, but they were down, so much, and then they were forcing shots, and nothing was falling. Obviously, 6 for 19 for Westbrook, Harden 4 for 11, and Eric Gordon 3 for 7. Our top three dogs, that are supposed to be their stars and scorers. You can't have all three shoot that poorly and expect to win, and obviously that didn't happen all series long. Is why they got swept. That and how poorly defensively they played.
And then we'll take a look at the Lakers. Anthony Davis, 25 points in this one, 10 of 14 shooting. These are the kind of numbers we looked from Giannis Antetokounmpo, which he didn't have in this game. And pretty disappointing for Giannis today, but for the Lakers, you're going to the NBA Finals, and Anthony Davis really showed up clutch as LeBron James kind of took the back seat in this one as the second star, surprisingly, as he's been the number one star most of their run in the playoffs. And just a fantastic run out of them, and they're going to the NBA Finals with a sweep. Any other points, big game?
No, I mean, you basically said it all. I mean, Anthony Davis stepped up. LeBron didn't have a great game, only took 6 shots, but how about this for Anthony Davis? I mean, I believe that's his first or second high scoring in the playoffs. I think he may have had 26 one game or 24, but stepped up here in the closeout game and put it away. And once again, the Lakers had help off the bench. Rondo with 7, Dwight Howard with 8, Pope with 5. I mean, their bench had just played absolutely fantastic here in this series. And if they can do that in the finals, I think you'll see the Lakers be the champions.
All right, and that's going to do it. Our final notes in game 4, 72 to 48 is the final. Huge offensive and defensive performance of the Lakers, and they are going to the NBA Finals. Thanks all who joined us, and have a good night.